Today I want to go over the 3 main exercises I use for our leg sled hack squat hybrid that we have here at the gym. It's the RitKeep A10. If you're interested in picking one up, I'll link to it down below. First things first, I almost always use accommodating resistance on these, aka bands. And so it doesn't rub on this handle here, I usually put it about a fist width away from the inside of the collar and then put it on the outside down here at the bottom. And then you can put your weights all the way up against that band, and that's going to provide the right amount. And with our metal plates, you're still not going to run out of room on the collar, so it should be perfectly fine. Again, what this does is making the strength curve a little more even from the bottom to the top. Normally, as you would press up with something like a leg sled, it gets easier as you get towards the end range of motion, which is the whole point of accommodating resistance, is that it's going to be the same or similar resistance in terms of challenge from the bottom to the top of the range of motion, where as you're going up, you get more band stretch and more resistance. So that way, as you're locking out your legs, which is typically the easiest portion in like a squat or a leg press or a hack squat, all those variations, this way it makes it a little bit more challenging in the entire range of motion. The reason I like to do that is because leg, sled, hack squat, whatever variation you're using is already an accessory movement for something else that you're probably trying to drive up. For example, if you're trying to improve your back squat, we're using the leg sled as an accessory to that. So the adaptations are already more generalized. So I'm not really worried about it being specific to the movement. So that's why we're almost always going to add that accommodating resistance to it. So first exercise is just traditional leg sled. I really like putting my feet, and I recommend people putting their feet almost all the way up where the toes are at the very top of the plate. And now what that allows for is it allows it to maximize the amount of hip that we're using. Whereas if we bring those feet down closer to the bottom, it's going to bias a lot more of the quad and anterior knee. So I prefer to have those feet up high and almost to the corners of the plate. And again, almost regardless of your typical squat position, because even if you're someone who likes to squat a little bit narrower normally, what the leg sled is going to encourage is that it's going to basically push the knees into your chest. And in order to maximize your range of motion, which is an important part of this, you need the knees to go on the outside of the torso at the bottom of the rep. So in order to make that happen, you want the feet a little bit wider and to drive the knees out as you're coming down and then pressing back up. I would say you can use as much range of motion as you can get away with without that tailbone starting to come up off the pad. Once you're getting that tucking of the tailbone, basically going into a posterior pelvic tilt, we're trying to avoid that, so that's where I would cut you off in terms of range of motion. But beyond that, I would try to maximize that range of motion as much as you possibly can. The next exercise is a single leg version of the leg sled. So I typically will put my heel just on the outside of this hole right here. I really like putting my other foot up on this rail, as well as obviously my hands on the handles, and that provides the most amount of support. If you're worried about failing the rep, I'd probably just put that foot down like this. But if you're not worried about it, that can also be a way to help judge how far I need to go. I typically look at this spring here, and that's how far I can go as I'm driving down through my rep. So same thing, I'm trying to have this knee track to the outside of the torso and then driving up. Let me show you on the other side. Coming on the outside of the torso and driving up. And for this one, again, I like to leave just a little bit of room from the top, maybe 2 inches or so, and that allows me to get a little bit of quad involvement on that single leg sled. Now, as I go to transition to the hack squat, one thing that's really helpful as I move this is I'm just going to bring this sled down a bit, about a notch or even 2, so that it's more like already in halfway through the rep. And what this is going to allow for is me to be able to actually get into the hack squat without having to go with my tippy toes or readjust. Because as you'll see, when we put this plate all the way down flat, now we have all this extra length. So you just want to be able to have that at a point that you can actually get into it. So all you do is lift up a little bit on this pad. You'll be able to move it up here, line it up with the holes, make sure it's back in. And then the last adjustment I make for the hack squat is bringing this pin all the way up. That way I can maximize my range of motion on the squat. Now, when I get set for the hack squat, I really prefer, similar to the leg sled, having my toes all the way up to the corners. The one thing I will say with this is that you can play around and have this kind of mimic your normal squat stance a little bit more. Whereas if you're someone who is a little bit more narrow, you can take that stance. If you're someone who's a little bit wider like me, you can take that stance as well. Again, either way, I would try to maximize having the toes up to the very corners without them actually going off of the plate. And again, you'll see one of the main reasons I have you lift up that plate is because I'm trying to maximize the range of motion to get in the bottom of this rep. And I would say you can go all the way down like I did until you touch that pin at the spotting pin at the bottom to try to maximize your range of motion as much as possible, because you're already a little bit limited in the range of motion for this exercise. So the other thing is, I would either pull down or potentially push up onto this, the handles here as you're actually going through your reps. The reason being, you want to be able to create tension and rigidity through your trunk as you're going through these reps. So I personally really like pushing up into the handles and driving up, and that kind of mimics a front squat for me a little bit more. So there you have it. That's the 3 main exercises that I use for the RitKeep A10.